Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me for something that I've been looking forward to. Today I am here at RENNtech Europe beside the Nurburgring, where inside my SLS AMG Black Series is up on the ramps today to start the work getting the upgrades to the RENNtech R1 package. That means the headers and sports cats and an ECU tune. We're going to go inside though, take a look at the parts that are going to be going onto the car. We'll see some of the work in progress today here at RENNtech, and then that means back in a couple of days to pop it onto the dyno to see how much power it's making and to take it straight out for a lap of the green hell. Let's head straight on in then and see what is going on. It is always very cool to be here. RENNtech are located just beside the Nurburgring, which means in the background you can pretty much always hear the noise of race cars blasting around the track. But let's head in then. We're here on the first ramps. We have my SLS Black Series, which I think we can categorically state is not a garage queen. In fact, in the last, I think, 2 months since it finished being resprayed into Mystic Blue and had PPF, I've already driven this car 8,000 kilometers, about 5,000 miles. Now we're going to lift it up in a moment to take a look at what's happening on the underside. Here on the table, we've got all of the new parts that are going to be installed. But let me come through actually just to open up the bonnet to go into the engine bay and talk a little bit more about this, because this car is a bit of a beast to begin with. Obviously we have the 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 up front. In stock form it makes 631 horsepower. We did pop this car onto a dyno and we got 582, so we do want to dig a little bit more into this to try and find out why it might have been down so much on its original power. The Black Series comes with that black badge on the centre of the engine just like the new ones, but the main parts that we're going to be changing are of course headers and sports cats, which happen on the underside. So not too much that you can see from up here, just the battery that has to be disconnected beforehand, obviously to make sure it's safe to be worked on. So these are the parts, check these out. Headers and sports cats, high flow 200 cell sports cats, replacement parts for the original that are going to improve the sound out of an already epic sounding car. In fact, horsepower should go up from 631 to 675 horsepower, metric horsepower with the R1 package, but I think the sound is going to be the biggest thing. If you take a look in here, in fact, and this will make more sense when we lift it up, you've got the primary cats and the secondary cats, except in the case of this, if I turn on a light and just have a little nosy through here for a moment, you will notice the secondary cats are, well, kind of a straight pipe because you have that all happening at the first level. So these are going to sound monumental. All of the different sensors are here to be connected in a second, and we've got the other parts that have to go on with doing this. It's a complicated procedure to get it lifted, to get underneath, and to get everything done, but we're also here, well, in some pretty epic company. The A45S that I drove recently, that car that did the full 7-minute lap on the Nurburgring Nordschleife, which was incredibly impressive, this GT R Pro, and also the E63R, as it was nicknamed. But let's get this lifted up so we can talk more about what's happening underneath. The car is going up in the air, which is always a great opportunity then to take a proper look underneath. Now the front panel has already been removed. Normally there's a cover over the very front of it. We did have a quick look under here when I was with the car over at REM when we put it onto their dyno the first time, but we'll be able to go completely underneath and take in exactly what we've got here, starting right up at the front, of course, where you can see the cats. The headers are up inside here. They've got that heat shield on them now, but this is all quite awkward and fiddly to access. But if you think about it, the parts that are being replaced are basically where it connects up there onto the engine. Then you have the pipework through the primary cats and the secondary cats up towards these, which have also been opened up already. So that system is going to be replaced. Coming further back, you have this that we talked about before. It looked like it's previously been changed at this rear section towards the exhaust. We couldn't entirely tell what's going on. Then back here, I'll look at that, the carbon prop shaft, the gearbox at the back, and then we come through towards the titanium exhaust that you already have. So not too much to be gained, I should say, if you change the exhaust on the car, given that it's already a titanium system. But here, it's really cool to see that, well, this is what's going to be coming out to be replaced. It's just very awkward and very fiddly. Obviously, things like the lambda sensors have already had to be disconnected, but the work is going to start. I think this has to come off, this support beam. That's not too complicated. And then these can come out and be swapped to the new RENNtech parts. First up, to get that removed, which could potentially be difficult, but doesn't seem to be too hard to get all of those loosened out. to take that off, obviously to help with access. Nothing needs to be cut to do this. No actually cutting of any pipework or anything like that. It's just going to be super fiddly to get up inside here, to undo all of the connectors and screws, obviously, that are holding it in. Not exactly the easiest, but always amazing to see the underneath of a car like this, to see all of the components. The suspension, for example, derived from the GT3 car. Don't often get to have a good look in towards that. The front under tray panel had to be removed. That was this piece. That's already been taken off. Lots of tools and things, obviously, for the purpose. Always find that fascinating as well, having every single bit of tool imaginable. And when I was here the last time, we actually installed this new front splitter part, just because the previous one was a little bit deformed from a few scrapes that it had had in the past. But the beauty of these pieces is that they protect the carbon fibre from being destroyed. You might remember it did have a little bit of damage before it went to Topaz. Actually, first time round, it had had a little scrape with the previous owner just around the corner, but we re-lacquered it and then PPF'd it, and it's looking beautiful as it should right now. Unfortunately, it's not going to scrape around the front or anything like that. There's no lift system actually on this car. If we come towards the back of the car, just to see what's going on here as well, with the rear frame underneath here, suspension as well, just to poke a nose through and have a look at. Wheel arch liners, even some openings back there. And I know one thing that was discussed, if I do this, is that yes, there's only a single pipe inside. The trapezoid finishes are visual finishes, and this is often the way. And I know when you see it like this, it's a little bit strange to actually see it like that. But the reason is, if you ever have any kind of rear impact, you don't actually break the exhaust system, which would push potentially forwards all the way through to the engine and actually really damage the car. This is just about looking cool, and it's the same on just about every car, to be honest. I do love the central fog and reverse light back there too, surrounded by all that lovely carbon fibre and the Mystic Blue. While I'm here at RENNtech, we have to take a quick look around. There are some very nice cars currently being worked on, starting here with the GT R Pro, which we actually saw before. This is the one that has the carbon fibre boot lid, which is something we now see on the GT Black Series as well. Underneath it is sitting the E63R, as it's called, the E63S wagon with a significant bump in power. If we come on through, we have the RENNtech A45S, which I took out for a drive quite recently. We've got some AMG GT Rs. In fact, we've got a fleet of AMG GTs around, the GTS, GTR, GTR, and the GTR Pro. This car that did the 7.00.0 lap on the Nurburgring Nordschleife, the full lap. That's the, not bridge to gantry lap, the entire way around. Now the official AMG GT R Pro lap time was about 7 minutes 5, just under 7:04 point something. So that car, the RENNtech car, has technically the AMG GT lap record until maybe the GT Black Series, which already has 730 horsepower and significantly more aero, reveals the time or goes around itself. So that's pretty cool. That's a kind of record holder, you could say, so to speak. Well, this car, it's going to be a while. It's going to take, I think, quite a bit of time to get these fully installed, to go through all of the parts. I'm looking and learning, taking in some of the details while it's all being done. But seeing the parts like this, I always think the finish is really fantastic with the plaques on them as well. You can see the sensors and various different things, and being able to see through them is also pretty cool as well. They certainly look the part, and I think they're going to sound the part when they're all fitted up on the car. Quick removal of the front wheel to see if there's going to be any easier access in here, because as you can imagine, it is quite difficult. It's always impressive to see these, although I think at some point I might have to do something with the pads. Potentially a new set on the front and definitely a new set on the rear. They're actually pretty low back here. Something we need to look at sooner rather than later, getting some new pads onto the back of the car. I think new stock pads at the back and maybe even some upgraded pads on the front onto the ceramic discs. Certainly something I'm going to look into doing. Even after having removed the wheel arch liner, no dice, no easy access through the back. The kind of hope was that there might be almost something kind of right behind here where you could get in and access the backside of the headers. Kind of hard to see here, but basically it's a bit fiddly to get all of the different screws out. There are effectively 16 screws, which we can see just spinning around here, the equivalent of removing all of these from the stock setup, which is not the easiest thing to do in the world. With all of the screws out now, the original stock part can be removed. That has taken quite some work. Well done though, well done in getting that out. Absolute nightmare, but an interesting thing is it's actually got a completely different setup on different sides, on the different banks here. But when we can compare that original piece to the new parts, you can see quite some difference, especially in the way that they're presented and they look. Obviously, they have dirtied quite significantly over time, and I think if we looked in here, we would see
Wow, that's quite a lot heavier as well. Can't really see, it's a little bit dark at the moment. Oh, there we go, got a light. Yes, yeah, okay, you can see in there the very different system. So with more airflow to go through the new setup, they're going to sound a little bit crazier, and well, we're going to be hearing that when we come back in the future. But for the time being, this is quite fiddly. Having to do everything up in there. That's actually really cool to see some of the engine. The beating heart of this beast. We will get a very quick idea of how the new components are going to look, and you will see the difference quite dramatically when we have these two side by side. That will sit up in there. Obviously there's a bit of work that needs to be done before it's officially kind of installed, but you get an idea here of how it's going to go in, how it connects up, the brackets all go into place, all the wiring as well, and it's quite a different look from one side to the other at the moment, isn't it, with those two parts.
There is one thing that I need to show you quickly about the parts that have been removed. So holding this pipe back into the rear section of the system, and remember that we think in the past that this has been changed. We think this has probably been off the car before. To hold them together, you have a sealing ring, which is basically pressurized into shape. That is this, which you will notice is not in ideal shape. Basically, because of the way it's pressurized, it becomes exceptionally brittle, and as a result, when you open it up again, and particularly if it's been opened up twice, that means that this is going to need replacing. We'll get the spare part in so that that can be replaced with a brand new one, but for the time being, as you can tell, that's not exactly ideal. This could potentially lead us towards why the car is down on power originally, and what else might be going on back there. I'm actually just going to grab a light again very quickly, because I'm finding it very interesting to look and explore myself and have a look through here and see if there's anything we can find. It's not obviously the easiest to look down the pipes as they bend downwards, as you can just about see, but inside here we come down towards the third cat at the back. Not that we can quite get a good view, but those third cats, which do look like at some point they've been re-welded back on, so that's possibly what's gone on. Obviously a strap here just to hold it all in place while it's opened up. But this other side, the other bank, has a completely different clamp system here that you have with the clamp that goes over the top, which has always been the way on these older engines. The way they were set up, the newer GTR 4-litre bi-turbo doesn't do that, for example. On the SLS, that is how they were set up. So a few hurdles and things to have to work out, but this is why having all of the right tools and equipment helps substantially in order to get through this. We're just going to need to replace this part, which almost as you touch it, bits start just kind of disintegrating and falling off it because of the way it has so much pressure to hold the pipes together inside the system. So these, I guess I'll keep them obviously for the future, but I think this is going to be staying RENNtecht for the long term. Just one hiccup we need to work out for the time being to get the new part and obviously get this fully fitted up. But that's why it's going to take a few days. We budgeted a few days, and it means I'm going to come back out here, I guess, when things are more or less complete, so that we can take the car for a dyno run. I can take it for a lap around the Nurburgring Nordschleife, for a lap of the Green Hell, to experience the sound and drama when it's an R1 SLS Black Series, which is going to be mega. Officially, by the way, we get some horsepower gains. Stock is 631, so this will go up to 675, which is kind of cool as well. An extra 44 horsepower that we'll get out of it when all of the system is done and the ECU has been tuned to match as well along with that. But as you can imagine, a bit of work still to be done inside here where the head gasket will go. He says come all the way around. This needs to be cleaned up. Obviously it's going to be quite hard to get those bolts back on afterwards. I like the big made in Germany that you have up there, and all of the existing heat shielding that we have around the engine bay area. Actually you can see all the way right the way up towards the top. So cool progress. Obviously a lot of work still to go. Big thanks to the guys here at RENNtecht for letting me see behind the scenes as the work is being done and to see the parts. Just excited to have it all completely finished and get it out on the road with that installed on the SLS Black Series. For the time being, I actually need to head on. I've got some other things that I need to head off and do. That's quite a cool GTR Pro as well. That belongs to Seoul ACR. Looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the Hulk in the Green Hell Magno with the purple design over it, which is really crazy. Also with the green lip on the wheels I see as well. But I came out today in BM8 competition, which I'm using a lot more now, just enjoying driving around. Brilliant, brilliant car for the purpose. When I come back though, to go to the dyno and to go out onto the Nurburgring, I think I'm going to end up with having a couple of cars out here at the same time. And then there's even more stuff on the horizon. That sounded like a McLaren in the background. I wonder what it was. Have a quick look. There's always the intrigue of what's happening around here. Yep, that was a certain 620R. I recognise that 620R. That's Robert Mitchell's car that I drove following when I was in the M8. Where's it going? It's just manoeuvring around. I think probably just having some geo and work and things inspected and looked at as well. Looks really cool, that thing. Scoop on the top, wing at the back, 570 GT4 inspired road car. Anyway, I was going to wrap things up for today. Porsche heaven over there at Manti Racing as well, but yes, good times, good times. Looking forward to seeing how all of this turns out. So stay tuned, come back very soon. The SLS Black Series is going to be a RENNtech beast in no time at all. That's it for now though. Thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.